This is the Parents in Sport podcast. Amazing guests, honest conversations, topics that matter.
Welcome to the Parents in Sport podcast. I am your host, Gordon MacLelland, and I'm delighted to be joined today by Kevin Mannion, who is the Academy Performance Manager at Gloucester Rugby. Kevin, thank you for joining us on the show.
Morning, Gordon. Hope you're well.
Yeah, very well, mate. Thank you. I'm really excited today. Kevin and I have spoken a number of times, but I'm particularly excited for our listeners that hopefully Kevin's going to share some of his experiences in his role. Gloucester Rugby, for me, run one of the best parental engagement programs that we have seen. And we're going to hopefully talk a little bit about that, but also about the holistic development of their young people in their care. And it's a fascinating piece. So, Kevin, let's just get straight into it. Let's tell us a little bit more about you, your sporting journey, your coaching journey, and where you are now.
So, I signed professionally when I was 16 at Rochdale Hornets, made my debut at 16 in the first team, so at division below Super League. Played for about 2.5 years, broke my arm quite badly and went to university. Took my first year of university off. I had a pretty bad operation on my arm. Played student rugby in year 2 and year 3. Went to a World Cup final. Played for Great Britain and Australia. And from there got spotted to play again as a pro. So I did 2 years at Oldham. And in 2001, I played my last ever game of rugby. Game to get into Super League. Got beat by Widnes. And I walked away 2 weeks after to start working at Wigan Warriors in their academy programme. I did about three and a bit years there. Went to the University of Bath to work with British Tennis and did 3.5 years there, and then moved to Roehampton, did another 6 months as they opened up the National Tennis Centre. 2008 I went to Leicester Tigers for 7 years, and in 2015 I went to Gloucester, and I'm at the end of my 5th year at Gloucester Rugby now. To be honest, I've got a very interesting balance, because as much as I work, I actually have a 14-year-old that's going through our pathway and playing team sport now. So it's very interesting at times being involved in academy rugby and having a son that plays rugby and trying to manage your behaviours and not be all the things that you give people messages about, and try and just let him grow as he wants to be. So it is an interesting dynamics at the minute.
Absolutely. And you've got so many lenses there for, across different sports, different environments, going through things yourself as a parent, which is certainly the most, enlightening thing. As you say, I was joking with somebody earlier on one of these shows about how we know what we're meant to be doing, but actually sometimes when human emotion kicks in, that just goes completely out of the window, no matter how much you read about it. And we've got to be aware of that there's no such thing as being a perfect parent, is there?
No, I mean, it's an interesting one, because I was thinking about it yesterday. So I left Wigan in 2004 and went to University of Bath. Now, he was born in 2006. We've only lived together for 2 years. I've been commuting through work for what is 12 years. So this is the longest period of time in ever I've spent at home with him in this isolation block, without it being a planned holiday or when we were together at the first part of the Gloucester journey. And it's very interesting. It's a different. I've seen different sides to a 14-year-old, and all of a sudden, and I think his teacher said it to me, if I could give you a pill that made you angry, depressed, tense, stressed, anxious, happy, sad, would you take it daily? And it'd be no, but that's what's happening. Right. Because no one knows what's going on, because no one knows what's going on in this current climate. We've got this wave of emotions day by day, where the littlest thing can trigger off a bit of a mood, but actually the day after it's a happy reaction, and it's just different, isn't it? It's like it's seeing what's going on and actually just embracing it.
Yeah, it's certainly been a challenging time, hasn't it? And I think, as you say, some people have valued the time at home, and it's been a real chance to stop and reflect and some of those relationships. But you don't know what's coming next, and you learn a lot about your children. You probably learn a lot about yourself as well. And we're all trying to make the best of things, aren't we? That's all we can do.
Yeah, but I think the key to it is that reflection piece. Like, I mean, I went to Leicester in May 2008. I've been working in academy rugby now for 12 years. The challenges are still the same. I've seen very, very good players with high potential not get through because they don't work hard enough. I've seen players that didn't have as much potential but worked so hard and got through and are still playing the game now. And one of the hardest things to do when working in these kind of environments is actually explain to people what it actually takes. In some cases, it's survival of the fittest. In some cases, the best players get through, but in other cases, the best fall away because they haven't got the right mental attributes to get through. And when you're trying to engage with people and offer advice on so many different levels about where their children are at and what's going on, it's hard to know how to frame or how to pitch it, because at times it can come across as wrong.
Yeah.
But actually, in the world of professional sport, they demand high standards, and only certain few get through. And some of these standards that we think are high aren't high enough.
Yeah, I agree, and I think this is where this key focus around the parental engagement piece is really important. That parents understand their role, and actually their role is helping to support some of those sort of key character traits, as you say there, and the sheer hard work and determination one, counts for an awful lot. When we were talking to Liz McColgan on this show, and Liz didn't think she was that good a runner, but she ran more miles than anybody else. She said, she didn't think she was that good. And she even says that, Eilish has got plenty of ability, plenty of talent, but actually they have maximised everything that they were given. And Liz said even in the training groups when, Eilish was in her mid-teens, there were far better runners than her in the running group that Liz was coaching. But actually, they chose to take another path, didn't maybe work quite as hard, and went off in different directions. And we need to get parents to understand that it's those bits that we need the support with, and their children need the support with, because actually whether you win an under 14 game isn't really that important, or an under 16 game. It is important to the players, and it's important to coaches, but in the grand scheme of things, it isn't that important. There's a far bigger picture, isn't there?
I think you've got to appreciate the small successes on the way. If the end point is being elite or professional, I think those small successes are massive. I think it's understanding what they are though on that journey, and I think at times we neglect that because we don't realise how big a success that is for that person, or how big a win that is, considering where they've come from. But ultimately, sometimes those successes don't necessarily lead to an outcome that is elite or professional. They can be masking frailties or weaknesses that actually you were with the best team, but actually you're not necessarily going to kick on as well as some of the others. And you're playing with so many things, and it isn't nice on the day when you have to release players and stuff like that, because they hold you literally hold their dreams in your hands. And at that instance, at 16 or 18, they go. But it's understanding that and having the right tool set. That's not it. You can go somewhere else. You can try. It's just not working here because we've already got X, Y, and Z, or we've got X, Y, and Z below. And that's a difficult one as well.
Yeah, and you guys do an amazing job in putting those young people into environments, experiences, celebrating those small successes as you do, in the hope that you are creating, really multifaceted individuals. So as you say, that even though you've got that heartbreaking moment of having to release them and go through the emotion of that you hope that what you've equipped them with is something that will allow them to thrive if they go elsewhere, and even if that's not in a sporting environment. Is that sort of what really underpins your drive and your program?
I think I've come at it a slightly different way. So we ultimately want players to take ownership of their own development, but they live in worlds that are so structured. They live in worlds where they turn up at school at 8:30 in the morning and they go home at 5, and every hour's planned. Now, to all of a sudden expect autonomy of this kid to be able to go, I can do this, and shun mum and dad, actually, that's not the way to do it. So what my idea was, okay, we see them for between 2 and maybe 10 hours a week up to under 18s. Okay, that means that they're either at school with teachers or with family for the rest of that time. How can I be as impactful in those minimal hours, but make sure that message is carried home and consistent, and not just what the player wanted to hear? It's got to be what the message that we need to drive through. So let's use an example which is really, really easy. Nutrition. We all know the importance of nutrition. We all know the relevance of it in this modern day with obesity and child effects and long-term health. But if I talk to a set of players around nutrition, they will remember protein. I've got to have protein. Well, that might not be the main focus of that message. So what we did was, okay, at under 16s, we went, who holds the purse strings? How would it help if who would it be beneficial to educate? And how can we integrate it into the whole of our system? So I think I've probably got, with the staff at Gloucester, one of the best in the Premiership in James Hudson. Now, he's the first team nutritionist. He works down from first team to senior academy to under 18s to under 16s. Now, I don't know where that goes on anywhere else. I know that other people put students in the stuff. He takes it upon himself. Now, with our under 16s, we don't necessarily go to the players. We go to the parents, and we talk to the parents. And James does sessions with the parents where he talks about the key information around the nutrients and why they're essential and why sleep's essential and why hydration is critical. But on the same side of it, makes it realistic, because all of a sudden we're operating with different budgets. We're operating with families that have siblings that do other sports. So this is not, I'm going to cook a meal for Johnny because he played. This is, how can we make an adjustment on the whole of what we're doing to suit the family and not just one person in it? And what we do then is, because James is really engaging and does it in a really good way, we get parents then on a journey of food, where they then get the players into the kitchen, where they then get the players to come to the supermarket. If I say, go to the supermarket and buy this, they'll just go in and pick that up. But if the conversation is between the parent and the player in the supermarket, or you're engaging the player to come into the kitchen, they'll learn in their own environment, life skills for further on, but also starting to take ownership of some of the things they're putting into their body. Now, what we do on the back of that is James will hold cooking sessions. So we'll bring, say, 20 to 25 parents into the training ground. We'll video it. You might put 3 meals on. He will cook 3 meals in under 45 minutes. So we have one called fakeaways. So what can you do on a Friday night when you've got in late? Rather than ring the local Chinese for a sweet and sour chicken, which will take 30 minutes, I can show you how to do it in 15. Yeah. And it's about, okay, so the parents in the kitchen doing it, bring the kid in. Yeah. Have you considered this? Because some of them are really, really good, but some of them will burn beans, can't boil an egg. And it's those kind of processes that hang about. In that case, it's at 16, we're all about education. Who do you educate? Well, you go to the parents first, because they control the purse strings on the budgets and what food goes in the fridge. If you just tell the player at 16, it will be literal, and it'll be, we need to have this, we need to have this. And then when parents come back to you in the car park and go, you're costing me a fortune because I'm having to buy this and this. That's not what we said. And that's where the dynamics of whatever message you're trying to get or whatever topic you're trying to deliver, will determine how you engage and who you engage. So between 17 and 18, we'll start to engage the players more around nutrition in terms of food first, but the parents have already got the underpinning knowledge. So when the player then goes home and starts talking about the same stuff that these parents had at under 16s, there's already a dialogue, because the language is consistent. We don't change anything that goes home. So we don't talk about protein shakes and we don't talk about supplements. We talk about food first, which is everything that the parents have heard earlier on. And then, like anything, like education, you can't just do it once and expect them to understand and know it. You have to keep revisiting it. So every year from 16, we bring the parents in and we do another 3 or 4 sessions, another 3 or 4 sessions on that topic, where they're on their own. And what you find is that parents answer their own questions. So within the room, the answers are with the parents. So if one of them is struggling with, there's a 1-hour trip from Oxford to Gloucester, or I'm not got any ideas of snacks, another parent will shout up and go, have you considered this, this, and this?
Yeah.
Have you considered this, this, and this? And then all of a sudden, you're removing this is a nutrition presentation, and what you're doing is opening up an open floor for discussion and conversation about things that have already been tried out, and then we can facilitate, well, okay, that's great, but have you considered doing that with wraps instead of a sandwich? And we come up with the little bits, but they design the detail.
Yeah. Do you know what? I don't think anybody has ever spoken to me and I had a conversation where you have covered so many key points of parental engagement based on one particular story in that. Because if we just sort of rewind through that, it was the fact that you decided you had a message that you then didn't just make as a blanket general message. You took into the fact that everybody has different backgrounds and different environments and different experiences. So it was you made it able for them to put into their own context. You then supplied them with practical help. Now, as you say there, it reminded me of a story I'd heard, and I was working with a pathway group where there was a nutritional chat going on, and this boy at the back of the room got handed this recipe book. I mean, it was amazing. I mean, Delia would have been proud of it. It was stunning. Some of the stuff in there was fantastic. I thought I was going to get a photocopy when I went home. And he looked terrible. And I sort of saw him just after it. I said, "Are you all right?" I said, "You could just see the colour drain from his face." And he said, "Yeah, not really." He said, "I can't cook pasta." He said, I don't have a clue about this. There was no chance of him sort of steaming bok choy or doing anything with salmon, and he looked terrible. So the general message was not going to work. And the fact that you were helping provide the children to give them ownership in terms of the practical tips, but actually bringing in the parents as well. You know, I had a chat with my own son's football academy when they said, "Oh, you know, children should be thinking about this, this, and this." And I said, "Yeah, but you're going to have a chat with the parents, because half of them pull into McDonald's on the way home." So their messaging was right, but actually the context and understanding, when we think about parents being the role model, that if we're then stopping to do that, then we've immediately blown up as parents that message we've just heard inadvertently. But then actually the organisation haven't gone far enough to layer that understanding, which is what you've done. And the fact that you don't just do it once and you revisit it. You know, we hear a lot of parental engagement programs where they may be good at the one meeting at the beginning of the year, and then there's absolutely no follow-up, or the one bit of code of conduct comes out once a year and then gets hidden in the glove box for the rest of the year. The fact that it's revisited on a sort of relatively regular basis, and those messages are consistently given through, actually gives parents a real feeling of being part of the journey, and feeling like they want to support, and feeling like they can support. And then that final one in the sort of cooking demos where parents are helping each other is just amazing, because in any of these processes, we want parents to feel like they've got a voice and that they're able to speak and they're able to support each other. And a lot of parental engagement programs, as you know, around the world, just tell parents what to do. They don't go anything beyond that. They don't give them a voice. Somebody stands there, tells them how it's going to be, tell them, this is how it works. And if you don't like it, well, there's always another club, or there's somewhere else you go. And you and I both know that that's certainly not the way to go.
I think it depends on, like I said at the start, I think it depends on your topic. I mean, nutrition's a great one because it covers if all of a sudden nutrition, and James does it really well, he will talk about nutrients, he'll talk about sleep, he'll talk about food hygiene, he'll talk about gut health, he'll talk about, at various points, that's too much information for a 16-year-old. So what we have to do is go, okay, if we talk about gut health, we just talk about Yakult and those kind of products. If we're talking about sleep, we talk about sleep hygiene, so we talk about not using blue light, showers before bed, coming down at night. Now, when we talk about that, I might pop up and go, okay, is that not a family choice? Is that not something where everyone in the family has to put the phone down by 8:30? Because unless you set the standard, you can't drive the standard.
Yeah.
If it's an emergency, pick it up. But is that not something that you could do as a group to support in the first instance? And then you can use once you've got that becomes habitual, it's fine. But it's like talking about, we've got, as all our players have placemats. So they eat off a Gloucester Rugby placemat, which has ideally what they need in it. But that's not necessarily so they lift the plate up and look at what's underneath it. It's so there's a discussion across the dinner table, because that's where a lot of these discussions take place. Around, okay, what have we got in this? Oh, that looks good, and you start to craft conversation, and that's something as well. Crafting a conversation around our topic in a non-threatening or a non-closed manner. So getting parents to understand that the way that they question, and kids are really good at this. My 14-year-old is brilliant. The way that they pick up pitch and tone to the way that you come across at a subject, that helps. That can either shut it down straight away before you start, or it can make it go through the roof because they never shut up. And it's that balance. It's how you get those things in. But then all of a sudden, if I go, okay, we're going to do anti-doping, and we're going to bring the RFU anti-doping officer in the room, and the under-16s are going to sit there, and the parents are going to sit with them, and then the under-18s are going to sit there, and the parents are going to sit with them, and he's going to stand there and go, you need to understand that this is strict liability. Okay, do you understand what strict liability means? Hand up at the back. No, it means that mum and dad, unless you buy it, you are not responsible for what that athlete puts in their body. This is now where they have to take ownership and have some understanding of what's going on. There's no deviation with anti-doping. So unfortunately, that is tell. It's not ask questions. It's not find out what your knowledge is. It is, this is the law. You operate within this. If you don't and get caught, you're in serious trouble.
Yeah, I'm just gonna jump in on you there, Kev, because I think you said it to me last week, sort of off the show, about this idea that some things do need to be mandated. I've seen lots of parental engagement programs where we've just gone off the other end of the cliff, which we have done with coaching, where somebody has one style. Well, no, it's about having a toolbox of 20, and you use them as and when it's right. And I think you've hit a really good point there, that actually, it is all right to tell parents sometimes, do you know what, that's just a no-go. That's not happening, because some parents are happy to tell you that information. Well, we just don't do that. But then there are other opportunities to do the bit like you've done with the nutrition, where actually, yeah, we can all get a bit of a voice and we can all have a discussion. And probably the perfect parental engagement program is one that encompasses both. And there are so many that now go off either end, that they either do it too much mandating, or they've gone too laissez-faire and happy-clappy. Well, actually, do you know what? Let's cut the rubbish. That just can't happen.
Yeah, because unfortunately, there is within. It's another one that we do. So if you look at nutrition, is ask. Anti-doping is tell, because we are under as much pressure as they are. If they get it wrong, it shows up badly. We had a spate where we had a lot of young drivers that were getting bumps. We had 5 in about 6-7 weeks. So I got on the phone to Gloucestershire Fire Service and spoke to them. Now, the first one we did, we just spoke to the players, and it was, okay, this is an RTA, bang, 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 boom. So straight after, he said, do you want me to bring your car down? He went, yeah, so I'll cut 2 of them out of a car for you. I'll show them what it's like to get cut out of a car. So a Friday afternoon in the middle of the car park at the training ground, 2 lads got in a Focus, 2s and blues were flying down into Hartbury College car park, and 2 players got cut out of a car. But what you want to do is make people think. So the next time we did it, we did players and parents and put them in the room together, because all of a sudden, if one of those people don't come home, the knock-on effects are massive.
Yeah.
Now, this part of this came from me being around a motorcycle accident where a gentleman died on me and my wife. He got hit by another car and we couldn't save him. But we went back and we started talking about this, and we said, listen, I thought, no, it's probably really impactful if we have the parents in the room. Now, I didn't know this was going to happen. I got a little bit of a heads up, but I didn't know. So the guy from the fire service was amazing. His delivery was unbelievable. He was, even though he was telling people about the risks, and literally like that, he had people in the palm of his hand because he was so engaging and would take questions at all time, and it was brilliant. So we're going through this, and we've got players and parents, and this is from 16 to 19, so there's a full spectrum in here. Some kids aren't even conceiving learn how to drive. And all of a sudden he said, I got caught in this one just about 5 minutes from the station. So we're up on this top road. This car's hit this tree. Speedo said 70 when it stopped. Next thing we know, like they're sorting it all out. They managed to get the person's heart working, went to Birmingham. And this bloke walks down who's his best mate, screams at him and goes, that's my daughter. Okay? So, unbeknown to me, he brought the father into the room for the presentation with the parents. Halfway through, we thought he was going to, I knew, but we thought he was going to hand over to another fireman. In front of the whole room, the guy got part closure on what was happening by telling the parents what it was like from the parents' side to lose our young daughter.
Wow.
Now, you've got to be very careful how you do that. But actually, the conversations that went on post that were massive.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about. I don't want you to not drive, but understand the responsibility that you're getting on the back of being allowed behind this machine that can travel at 80 miles an hour.
Yeah.
You now have, and if you're taking people with you to training, you have a responsibility to them as well.
Yeah.
And it's that kind of messaging. How can we get biggest impact without, and that, it didn't scare, but it kind of made people think.
Yeah.
It is a responsibility. It is important. Treat it with the responsibility and the respect it deserves.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, hugely powerful scenarios and work, isn't it? You know, we talk about effective parental engagement or developing, individuals. And as you say, that lovely sort of thought out, thing of making those environments safe to deliver those messages. But actually, there's a lot of complexity in there and tough. But my goodness, as you say, what an impact. I mean, just listening to that story at the other end, I sort of felt like it was appropriate for it to be silent for a minute as you sort of process, and you're just telling it. I mean, imagine being in the room, the impact that it would have had on people there.
We had parents in tears and some had to walk out. Now, I don't know what other people's backstories are, so I don't know if things have happened, but all I do know is that we've had a reduction in that kind of incident, which is, I'm not saying it's because of that, but actually we made a change and something happened. And I think it's acknowledging that if with the budgets are being cut across everything, across education, across. But so when a kid leaves school, what information do they need? What's appropriate and what's applicable? Are they being told? I know that the drive safe programs are starting to wind down a bit now because of funding. They're approaching a different age group. It's slightly older. But for me, I need that right now, because as soon as they get the car, they get giddy. And if they want to be a professional rugby player, they need to be alive. So that message is applicable and apparent. In terms of banking and finance, we need to speak to people to help them understand about saving money, cars, insurance, all those kind of things. And the people at the club in the RPA have a really good network of that. We don't approach under 18s, that's posts, but actually there's bits that we've tried to add, like helping writing personal statements, those kind of things for university. But that, like, in certain aspects, it's supporting what the school are doing. In other aspects, it's going, okay, what education tools do and it was me in the first one, did I think were appropriate that these people should be knowing? Because if they're not being done, why are they not being done? Because if you want to be a professional rugby player, firstly, you can't afford to have many car crashes.
No, absolutely.
Or any sportsman. It's like because the knock-on effect side, even if you dink it, your insurance goes up, which means it costs more, which means finance is different. Mum and dad might not be able to afford it. Then there's the petrol cost. I'm not trying to map everything out, but there is a balance between everything.
Yeah, absolutely, and and that attention to detail is incredible. So, all these things you've done, what do you think has been the sort of biggest positives to come out of this approach? Because obviously this is quite unique for me. I haven't heard of it to the level that you've done it. What have been the biggest positives to come out from parents and athletes? Do you get much feedback on it?
I think it's, but I hate to use the word because the players trust you. The players will, if I could literally get the players to do whatever I need them to do to make them think they're going to be professional players. And by not abusing that trust and doing the appropriate things at the appropriate times, the buy-in that we get from the lads is greater. And it's making sure that we never abuse any of that kind of trust that they place in us or their parents place in us, but also making sure that they're getting the right amount of information about the appropriate things, not getting the right amount of information about just rubbish. And it's just, I think that there's another, in everything we do, so I have to say James Hudson's outstanding as a nutritionalist, but I also have to say we've got an education officer that's unbelievable as well. Now, this is the biggest positive, and it won't seem like anything, but it's massive. So if you've ever been to Hartbury, there's the main training centre at the bottom. We've got a porta cabin at the back and the academy hut at the top, and 4G sits behind everything, the two training pits. So around 15 months ago, we started talking about various things. And basically, we just set up in the porta cabin, tea and coffee and biscuits. Come in if you want, have a chat about anything, speak to the education guy, or if the 18s are training and the 16s are doing rugby, it means I can jump into the room and pick up anything. Or James Hudson might be out, so we might try and tie up the nutrition so it's at the same time. And then Tom's around. Now, what that offers is a buffer. So some people don't want to talk to rugby coaches because they automatically select the team. But you find that education officers, support staff in terms of physios, S&C, nutritionists, get asked lots of questions because they don't select the program, they don't select the team. There's no real conflict because they're not going to pick the 1 to 15 or the 1 to 11 for Saturday. So by doing this every third week, him and his wife come in and they just set up a load of teas and coffees. Tom's I think he's an ex-English teacher, does a bit of supply. So he's big on the education stuff. So when people have questions about education, it's fine. When people have questions about anything else, he just comes in as a buffer. And actually, anything that we have, we normally have a process that we return, get everything back within 24 to 48 hours. So we just try and, if he hits us with something straight after training, we try and do it the day after and get to people as soon as we can. But the biggest thing is actually getting people to come through the door. More people are coming through the door. They're sitting in. It's not just when it's cold. It's when it's not, when it's normal. You've got parents from Oxford talking with parents from Gloucester because they're always in the car park, but they're in a safe environment. They can have a chat. They can pick our brains. They can ask questions. And across everything, I would say, irrelevant of anything we've taught or discussed, that's probably the biggest success.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden, it just puts people in an environment where as soon as they sit back on the couch with a coffee, you'd be amazed at the different level of conversation that you get. You're not stood up in a car park. It's not, I'm not being funny, I'm 6'5". People are going to, unless they're big blokes, they're going to look up at me. I'm on the same level. I'm sat in a chair, I'm on the same level, and it's just personable. And I think that's probably and he's driven that.
Yeah.
Like, he's the one that turns up every 3 weeks. He gives us his dates. I send them out. He might get 5 people, he might get 25 people. But no matter what they get a quality of service. And it's personable.
Yeah.
And I think too many times we put parents at arm's length. We put them in a position where it isn't personable. And I think what we've tried to do is bring that closer, allow them to a point where they feel they can ask, or they feel they can email, and actually just ask that niggly question.
Yeah.
And I know it sounds like I'm going around the hours of it, but it just, you can run any program you want, and you can try and do it in any ways. You can tell people, you can ask people, but it's how you make a person feel.
Yeah.
And unless they feel welcomed and not just a commodity or a taxi driver, then you're not. There's no point to it.
No.
You can't make everyone feel $1 million, and you can't take away stuff that's going on away from the place. But what you can do is make them feel like they're welcome in your house, which is,
yeah,
like my granddad's 98, my nan's 92, and if anybody walked through the door, and obviously in Wigan, just a cup of tea, love. I'll be the first. She would say hello, and then do you want a cup of tea, love? That was the first thing she'd say. She won't give tea because you are, but she make you feel welcome straight away. Yeah. And then I think too many times you stand behind a desk or you stand behind a table and you point at a screen and this is what we do, this is why we do it, and you go, what are you doing? Is that engagement?
No, and it's absolutely not. And as you say, that sort of relationship and feeling part of something bigger is absolutely huge. And it a bit like talking about the language bits that you talked about earlier, because actually it's our job also to decipher some of the information we know as sports scientists or sports coaches, to put it into a context that people can understand, because not everybody has that background. So actually, They don't need to know the ins and outs of absolutely everything. What they need to know is the messages, but delivered in a way that's real and impactful and normal, and that they can live and work with.
Agree.
Yeah, fantastic. So just conscious of the time. I mean, so much amazing information we put out here, Kevin, so far. Last question then, Kevin Mannion, you're on the spot. Your 3 top tips for anybody thinking of implementing an effective parental engagement program. What if they were sat there now with a blank bit of paper, starting from scratch? Where would you get them to start, and what would you get them to think about?
What messages you want to deliver, and how you're going to deliver them. Is it information that needs telling? Is it information where you can get answers from the room? Is it information that actually they don't need to know that level of detail, but can you put it in a contextual way that they understand? That'd be priority. Secondly, make yourself a person when you're doing this parental engagement stuff. Have conversations. Don't just ignore the person in the car park. Make sure, like, whenever you go to work in the morning, we say hello, or we'd shake hands with every player as we walked in. How you doing? Listen, these parents are no different. The first thing you do is you've got to break down the boundaries of coach and parent. Everyone's a person. Treat them as you would anybody else, and be really personable in the way that you do it. And I think lastly is understand as a coach that what you think is important is not necessarily important to the parents. So the messages that you think are vital are not what they want to know or hear about. At times, the chats around confidence and motivation, they don't want that. They want to know what you're going to do or how you're going to support the athlete during those periods, and what that looks like, how that might look. And unless you can have that kind of information, the first bit would be, don't start. Don't do it half-hearted. Don't start, because all you'll end up doing is starting a process that actually there's no longevity to. You'll just do bits and then it'll drop off.
Yeah.
And I think that's like the key to it all. And there might be 3 points is, unless it's a resource, it's a resource of time, it's a resource of people. It doesn't have to be a resource of money, because you've got all the skills in the room to deliver it. It's whether people that are there want to do it, whether they see a relevance, whether they see importance. If it's not important, don't start it.
Yeah.
If it's not relevant to you guys, don't engage in it. But the sooner people said, I'm not into that, than do stuff half-hearted, because then you get shown up.
Fantastic. Kevin, thank you for joining us on the Parents in Sport podcast. I really hope listeners can take so much away from that episode, and we look forward to chatting with you again soon, Kevin. Thank you.
Cheers, Gordon. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for listening. Check us out at parentsinsport.co.uk.